Hi, this is Privateer Station, and today we bring you day 445 of Russian invasion into Ukraine. As always, with former advisor to the office of the President of Ukraine, Olexiy Arestovych, Lieutenant Colonel, and Mark Feygin, Russian opposition politician, and of course also a lawyer and a rather famous blogger. Thank you, those who joined, for your continuous support and patronage, and of course, thanks to Bill, thanks to Klavs Preditis, Morbiel, and Jamer. You guys are the stars. Alright, here is day 445. Enjoy. Dear friends, glad to see you all on Feygin Live. We're doing our usual stream with Olexiy Arestovych. Olexiy, glad to see you. Good evening everybody. It is Sunday, May 14th. Time is 2 minutes past 10 p.m. in Kiev and same time in Moscow. We have about 70,000 who joined us already. About 20,000 of you clicked the like button. Big ask, please continue sharing links to that stream in your social media. Please help us to distribute this stream wider, to a wider audience, so that those who haven't joined yet do get a chance to see it. And of course, do not forget to subscribe to Feygin Live and to Olexiy Arestovych. And if you are listening or watching that in English language, do not forget to subscribe to Privateer Station. So let's begin. Let's start with the elections of the President of Turkey. Still do not have a clear result. Will there be a second round? Will there not be a second round? Or will it be Erdogan who wins or his opponent? Let's see and try to answer the question. If the result of this election has any relation to the war in Ukraine, or is it a parallel process that has no influence? Well, first let me read the last name of Erdogan's competitor, Kılıçdaroğlu. Okay, he promised to normalize relations with the West, and normalizing relations with the West is impossible without some cool down with relations with Russia. Of course, they would not sacrifice Russian relations completely, but because they have a lot of trade and other relations. But I think Sweden would have a much better shot at joining NATO. There would probably be some changes with Kurdish question, with Iran question, and relations with Russia would probably get colder. And he did bark at the Russians before the elections when they started commenting and trying to get a little more involved in the process or audible about it. He said, well, yeah, don't interfere, and then relations will not suffer greatly. There probably would be some changes also with the Syrian matter. And I would expect the gray schemes in economy would also start shrinking. But we should not be expecting a one-time big break between Turkey and Russia. But it might be a little more advantageous for Ukraine than the other outcome, because Sweden in NATO is another voice in favor of Ukraine in the NATO. All right, so we created a poll who will win on the elections in Turkey. And those who are watching us live during the original stream can vote if Erdogan or Kılıçdaroğlu will be able to win. So far, Erdogan has 58%. His opponent has 43%. But it keeps changing, probably as on the elections themselves in Turkey. Many people are commenting why preference to, or slight preference to his opponent, because Erdogan was actually supporting Ukraine and Bayraktars and all, right? Prigozhin apparently was asking for some weapons from Turkey, and he was sent to go, you know where the sun doesn't shine. So if the other candidate will be the winner, Do you think he'll have to maneuver and take some other position? Some other candidate is which one? If there are only three candidates. Well, this Kılıçdaroğlu, he is the main competitor. So how do you mean he would be acting different from Erdogan? Well, I don't know about weapons, but might try to balance his relations with Moscow a little more. No, I don't think that's about him. If anything, he would be worsening and cooling down the relations with Moscow. He is the representative of the civil part of the society. He is the representative of big cities. And Erdogan is relying on the village, everybody else, rather, let's say that. So his competitor is the representative of the pro-Western route of development, and we would see likely Turkey that we've seen before Erdogan. And Erdogan is the story of play around pan-Osman vector, pan-Islam vector. So he's leading a different politics. It is friendly to Ukraine in many aspects, and we've seen Bayraktars and other support, but it is also complementary to Moscow because it's a typical Byzantine politics in the aspect of balance of powers and interactions with different sides. So while we are thankful to Erdogan for his support and arms, we are not thankful for his additional support to Moscow. So we think that if his opponent, Kılıçdaroğlu, wins, the first part of that equation would stay, and the second would start shrinking. But we have what we have. I'm skeptical. Let's see what happens when they calculate all the votes. I'm skeptical in terms of the win of the opposition. Well, healthy skepticism is always good. I'm getting notes that today is Mother's Day. In Ukraine, you guys celebrate that. Yeah, I have a message to mothers of Ukraine and separately to Russian moms. So Ukrainian moms, basically for 10 years already, and 15 months already here at this conflict, all moms, not only the ones who are on the front, are the moms who live like a very tight string, because none of them knows if there'll be a present from Vladimir Putin flying into their home at night. And being mom is a heroic thing in general, and being mom in Ukraine is double that. And I want to thank our Ukrainian moms, and I want to say that you are Ukraine, and we are doing our best for you in different things, including winning over the enemy, of course, because mom is not just another person in life. It is literally our country, our home. And to Russian moms, I want to say, we don't get pleasure killing your sons here, and that would not be happening if not for the evil named Vladimir Putin. And the war is a very horrible thing. Your sons came to our land. We have to shoot them. None of our soldiers are storming your land. None of our soldiers are attacking Russia. I will not speak for myself. I understand your grief, because mom is always mom, even if she's a mom of the enemy soldier. We are doing our best so that your sons would be able to avoid death. There are hotlines of Minister of Defense, and there are programs that they can use to surrender. Over 3,000 people already used it, and you need to remember that we did not initiate this war. Your sons are being killed by Putin. We're only shooting at them. Putin is the one who is really killing them. So, Russian moms, each of you needs to make a decision what to do in this situation. But if you can influence your sons, do whatever you can to prevent them coming to this war. And they will not become military criminals, and they will stay alive. Yeah, I can only be slightly jealous of those who still have moms. I don't have mine for a while already. And the worst that can happen, I think, is when mom lives longer than her son. So this is the matter opened and directed at Russian moms. If you take out one balding idiot, you might be able to save thousands of your sons. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, let's continue with the stream. Last numbers in Turkey, at least for this moment. Erdogan still has 50%, 0.6, and his opponent has 43.6 as well. And the gap is shrinking, so now the main question is, will there be a second round or not? They have 20 more percent left to count, and we'll see if the second round will be needed or not. So far, they're calculating the votes, apparently mostly of the opposition, so the numbers are shifting towards the leader of the opposition. Okay, let's talk about another international thing. What's happening with Lukashenko? We discussed many times that he may be poisoned, he may be assassinated, and we know the main main interested party in that. Because, if Belarus doesn't have a leader, here's the Russian leader for your army. I actually, when I was in Ukraine, I met Kalinovsky detachment, and I'm saying hi to Vladimir Kovalchuk, a friend of mine. And Kalinovsky detachment gave me a flag of theirs with signatures of their leadership. Everything is real. So what we'll do with this flag, we'll give it to those of you, I'll send it personally, with all the signatures, who will send support to that detachment, who will pitch in monetarily. And, if Belarus leader Lukashenko will depart this problematic planet, actually there'll be a lot of people happy. And yeah, he's the one who made Olexiy, our guest here in the stream, terrorist in Belarus. So anyway, if you want to get this flag, go to Kalinovsky Telegram channel, the official one, and the one who pitches in the most in the next 24 hours will get this flag, and I will add my own signature to that. And we'll send it to the address that you provide. So if you want to participate in this activity, we'll put a link under the stream where to send it, and please send a note to our channel that you have sent the payment, and who will send most will get the flag with all the official signatures of mine, Alexei's, and Kalinovsky leaders. Commanding officers. And yeah, I see some comments. I said the thing, of course I meant the flag. The thing is, I was referring to the bag that I was holding. Mark, I'm skeptical. All these stories that Putin poisoned him, I think that's fake. He came to Moscow already sick, and I think he just had some usual disease, whatever is happening with him. And, even the regular disease can finish off a human. Maybe, but with political leaders it's more rare. Alright, so imagine that he dies, and then suddenly inner political situation in Belarus becomes very sharp. And it is impossible to calculate the consequences of that. And there are two kinds of opinions, because Moscow will probably try to install a marionette, a puppet, to occupy Belarus. And then the second is that Belarus will probably start struggling to get away from the grasp of Moscow. And I don't know which side will prevail. Because Russia right now doesn't have any free military and special services resources to try to occupy Belarus right now. The mood in Belarus is very resistive to Russian influence. And Lukashenko, when he's preventing Belarus from joining the war, he's actually expressing the mood of his people. He is not a great politician, he is not a beloved leader, but while saving his ass, he was actually saving and expressing the will of his people. So I don't believe there will be a leader strong enough to break the will of the whole nation. So I'm not really afraid of his death, because while some people are saying that he was balancing, he was zigging and zagging through the field to make sure Putin doesn't get what he wants, but I do not think this is a serious factor. So you think he'll not die? No. I think even if he dies, this will not lead to anything bad for Ukraine, and it has an opportunity for Belarus play, for Belarus independence play. The whole Lukashenko clan will be removed from power, and there'll be some other politicians playing out. There will not be a Moscow puppet in Belarus. I do not see that opportunity happening. And there is a chance that there'll be people with other opinion, other point of view on Moscow, and with a different outlook on what's happening in Ukraine, and very not interested in this war continuing or in Russia winning this war. So I would suspect Ukraine would have a chance to influence on this as well, diplomatically. But it would be a very strong event, of course, that would affect the flow of this war. But I am a careful optimist in this question, rather than pessimist that 40,000 Belarus soldiers would giddily run to fight in Ukraine. I don't think that is going to happen. So you think this will not lead to anything disastrous for Ukraine, even if Russia wants to? I think it will lead to a lot of consequences with all the bordering countries to Belarus, but I do not believe that Belarus will become a part of Moscow, will become a pro-Moscow country, especially in the aspect of the war in Ukraine. All right. We'll see how the situation unfolds. We have the poll going on. Erdogan still is winning. 56% of our viewers think that he will stay. Kılıçdaroğlu has 44%, 38,500 voted. Let's continue. And let's take a look at the front, what's happening there. We're mostly interested in Bakhmut, right? Yes. So evil tongues, and not just evil tongues on Russian side, also Vice Minister of Defense Hanna Mahler on our side confirmed that we took back at least 10 different positions, and this is in regards to the northern and southern pincer that were trying to surround Bakhmut, and it was very bad on the south. Especially there, that pincer was falling apart. Now on the north, they're also feeling real bad. I do not see the map that you show, but I will be taking a look at the map on my cell phone. And let's talk about, since it's still unfolding, let's talk about what is the opponent discussing. So if we look at the south from Bakhmut towards the road to Chasov Yar, that yellow road, they are now being pushed towards Klishevka, the second red diamond from the bottom. And there were times when they actually almost touched the road, and they were actually trying to interrupt this road from Bakhmut to Konstantinovka. I actually was on this road. This is the road where the bridge was blown up, right? Yep, that one. And then let's look up north to Verkhovskaya water reservoir. They're saying that they're not feeling well there as well. And in Bakhmut itself, Russian side and Wagner representatives, they're still saying they are pushing in the city limits. But our command is saying that we have heavy fighting with the use of all means and equipment. And many people are asking, why is Russian side fighting so unsuccessfully? Why, when their pincers are being removed and there is a threat, if not to surround, but at least additional threat to the ones storming the Bakhmut itself? I want to answer that and say that this is the quality of Russian military. This is the quality of their communications. The ones that are in Bakhmut, they have an order to go forward, and they're continuing to do that. The ones who are in the pincers, they had a different order. They have a different order to continue pincer movement, and Russian command has not withdrawn it. So those in pincers, they cannot go forward, but they're staying there and they're dying in their positions. And to note, they already have 2 colonels dead in the last 24 hours, and even Russian leadership acknowledged that. So basically, the top commanders of Lugansk, so-called army, they died in the last 24 hours as the result of shelling by our troops. And when the brigade commander and second in command of the corps die together, that means that they usually were discussing something, they were meeting. That means our artillery had a good target. And here is the question: the price of Bakhmut, the logic of Bakhmut, and the necessity of Bakhmut. Even before the 3rd Storm Brigade took the first positions of Russian occupants, even before that, there were serious arguments between experts that the price of Bakhmut is too high, that it doesn't make sense to defend it, that it will fall, that we, of course, have tired them, but the fall of Bakhmut will become a painful problem for Ukraine, and all of these things were discussed. Now imagine we do have a very notable success vector on this front, and it is directly related to the fact that we did tire them in Bakhmut. They have no reserves, they have no resources to resist our counteroffensive. They do resist a bit, but they cannot stop us. There are serious counter-artillery fight going on. Everything is booming and exploding there now. But imagine that our troops take Red Mount and Opetne to the north and to the south. I'm not even talking about surrounding Bakhmut, which, by the way, might happen after this event. And then the threat to Bakhmut will basically be removed. They'll still be fighting there, but this is the beginning of encirclement of Russian troops, possibly. And Russian command will have to react. And the situation will flip. We don't know how it will end, but it will flip, and Russian troops will have to face the risk of being surrounded. And that means that, as a result, since the 2nd of August last year, Russia has been storming Bakhmut, have lost about 100,000 troops there, dead and wounded. They were losing a company a day at minimum. And we've been wasting and wasting and wasting them. And critics were screaming, what are you doing there? You're losing your own people and your own resources. And the argument that we are tiring Russian resource and opportunity to continue military action wasn't sounding too strong. But now I have a question to all the skeptics. What about now? Perhaps we should have had a long will and patience. Because in big war, like in big politics, the basis of your success is long will. Especially it is needed in the situation when it is the twilight of gods, when everything seems that it's going not in your favor, that the luck is on the side of the enemy and it is pressing you and you only have to lose and withdraw gradually. apparently situation on the front does change. Even in events when people were screaming that everything is predetermined and Bakhmut will fall. So how many months passed since those last screams that Bakhmut will be encircled? 2 months already, right? Yep. So the event when they said they legally occupied it. So it's been 2 months and they failed to take a regional center, Bakhmut. Actually, since August last year, but 2 months since the official announcement. And what about the other parts of the front? What can you say about that? On the other parts, there are a lot of interesting things happening. Let's, again, I have to be careful here. Since we haven't met for the 4 days, there was a bigger delay, right? There are a lot of booms, including Lugansk as well. And people are on Russian side screaming why they've been flying to 140 kilometers, right? That's a little too far for their expectation. Booms were happening in Melitopol and in Kherson. Of course, they were always hitting our civilians, but we were hitting their military targets. And yesterday we shot down four pieces of equipment yesterday, 2 helicopters and 2 jets. These are the most precious ones for them. These are the ones that provide aerial cover for their troops, air interference, radio interference, and also Su-35 and 34. In all cases, all the operators of these equipment and the pilots died. So we basically destroyed an air group that was working as a single unit. They were flying to Chernigov for another hit on our cities there and our targets, and helis were supposed to distract our air defense systems, and jets were supposed to shoot their missiles. And they all went down. And this is the nice lesson to them before our counteroffensive. Remember the conversations, how will our troops advance if Russia will throw everything to continue providing air support and destroy Ukrainians from air. This is the little training and little show of what will happen and how we can deal with them now. If to make one step away from that field, for Russian command, that situation looks like they're being bitten in different places. Their logistics, their airfields, their command lines are getting destroyed in different parts of the front. They are seeing how we are capable to destroy different kinds of their troops, different kinds of their detachments, and we are breaking their morale and their back in the point where they were going to proclaim their success, Bakhmut. What is their psychological state, you think, now? I can draw a picture, a visual for you guys. Imagine a little aquarium for the fish. So somebody pushed it and the waves start reflecting from different sides. And in the middle there is that small plastic ship. At some point, all these waves will disorient that ship so much that if anybody was there, they would lose their mind. And they would lose their control over their troops. So this is what's happening with the Russian command right now. Right now, they're trying to react to all these things happening, but at some point, the overflow event will occur and they will lose the capability to actively and logically react to things unfolding on the front. Because the lower level is continuously lying to their commanders as well. And very soon they'll not only have not fully defined information, not clearly reported to them, but also be overflowed with the events happening. That event will be known to us, and that's when what will happen? Everything will happen for real at that time, at that moment. So this is what is called in the Western military science the operation of basic effects, where the action is being carried out to break the basic fundamental layer of the enemy's resistance. The main thing at war is to break their will to resist. Now there's surviving a very heavy crisis near Bakhmut, and around it we can see that intercepting a lot of communications and just watching from a side of their patriotic forums and chats and how they're talking. And they used to wave Bakhmut as a flag, and all of a sudden they cannot do it anymore. their morale is going down. Their morale and their belief that they can resist in other parts of the front is going down. They still can resist, but they're not already believing in that, because even under Bakhmut they had everything they had, and they're suffering a defeat there. And what will happen where they did not concentrate their resources? So, if to take a bird's eye view, our command is destroying the ability of the enemy to coherently manage their actions and troops, and is breaking their will, their belief that they can succeed. This is a very high level of professionalism. I think on the level of Ukrainian command, they're playing at a very respectable level, so every professional military can stand up and applaud. I would stand up, I would just get out of the frame, so I'm staying seated. But Russian school is not managing, is not surviving that level of professionalism. Their level is at least an order of magnitude lower. Plus, we see what we are doing. If we are starting to take out targets at 130 kilometers deep, that's only the beginning. We're just showing what will happen. It is a small preview. All right, we've been 30 minutes live. Let's discuss a couple more things. Zelensky's visit, President Zelensky's visit to several countries. Today he was supposed to visit France. I think he'd been in Italy. So it's a big tour of European countries, and I think this is probably precluding the NATO summit in Lithuania. And also in parallel, on the eve of counteroffensive, this might be an attempt to reinforce their support of the top leadership of Europe, to reinforce their support to Ukraine, especially in Italy. Our president, who is on the verge of counteroffensive, that's frankly already happening. The phase of forming the battlefield is already going on. We're preparing the battleground for our counteroffensive and destroying the certain communications and logistics and systemic objects in their defense. Only very serious reason could have made a president to leave the country at that moment for that long. I would remind that recently General Zaluzhny refused to participate in a video meeting of a NATO committee, citing the level of engagement and the schedule that he just doesn't have time to dedicate to that meeting. So you can imagine the pressure and the amount of things happening there daily. But in terms of president, I would say he's probably solving several groups of tasks. First of all is to finish the preparations of Ukrainian military for counteroffensive and further development of the situation in the aspect of getting new capabilities for the military. And of course, first of all, we're talking about military aviation. With his authority, with his presence, he is building a new aviation coalition, I suspect. There was a tank coalition before, now we have it. I don't think that will occur soon, but I think they will be provided to the Ministry of Defense, and he is working very seriously on it. But these are the realities, and he and Zaluzhny are working on the wider perspective, because counteroffensive is not the end of the campaign. There'll be more events happening, and after the first wave, we'll need to continue, we'll need to increase our capacity. And the second task is preparation to Vilnius summit, of course. It will be the main event of the season. By that time, we'll have some first serious results of counteroffensive, and of course, our president is building a coalition of wide support to Ukraine to blaze the path of Ukrainian membership in NATO. In whatever capacity we can acquire it, because this membership is the key aspect of our country. This event will determine our strategic development for many years ahead. If we don't join NATO, we'll have to throw a lot of resources into our defense and become a sort of Israel that spends at least 20% and sometimes there was a separate tax on salaries to support their military. If we join NATO, then the threat of Russia is being pushed beyond any realistic threat, and then we can spend more resources on restoring our country after the war into civilian, into industrial production, into cultural things. So this is a key factor. We all understand here this is the key element. Right now, for Ukraine to join NATO, the stakes are insanely high. And we know that not all NATO members are ready to vote for Ukraine. Despite the Stoltenberg statement, I have concerns about the position of Hungary. I still I'm not clear about the position of Turkey. And that's why the president is making a big coalition. Remember, we talked about the Northern Union. There are countries of Northern Europe that support Ukraine joining NATO without any preconditions. So there will be a political struggle there, and not a simple one. And a third, I believe, and by a visit to the Pope, I think that's a hint to that he's talking about the contours of the future peace negotiations based on the result of Russian military defeat on the field. At first, defeat, and then negotiations after all their troops are kicked out of our territory. And we see his statement, his commentary about the initiative of Pope when he came out and said, he refused all the assistance. He said, we thank you for your assistance, but negotiations will be happening only on Ukrainian terms, and our terms are known. Not a single Russian soldier on our territory. So, and also we do have a decision that we will not be negotiating with Putin. That has not been changed. So these are the matters of the presidential caliber that none of the diplomats can resolve. So these are the things he is solving there in Europe. First, roughly speaking, post-war Europe, future defense systems in Europe, Ukraine and NATO as a main part of that future. And third is continuous support to Ukraine, first of all, militarily support. And we can see that by the persons he visits, by the commentary that he lets slip. And I did not expect him to be as stern in regards to Pope, but he said the way he did. So he's very ready and fighting for our interests. So he is there because there are some things that in a big historic perspective are more important than counteroffensive. While most people here and in Russia are talking about counteroffensive, I want to remind our viewers that the main goal of war is to have a better peace after it. So winning war is only a process that is part of it. It is part of a bigger process. First is win war, second is win peace. And the effort to win peace post-victory, that this peace becomes better after this war, it is not a given, by the way. Remember Romania that has lost as the result of the Second World War? They actually increased their territory and they managed to somehow become part of the winners. So this is not a simple matter. There are efforts to win the war and there are efforts to win post-war peace. And that is what President is resolving now. These are tasks not only of strategic scale, but actually historic scale. We are living in historic times when very big processes are happening. They're happening for the most part behind the scenes, but by things bubbling up and out of there, we can guess what's happening. This is indeed historic times. Yep, I agree with you, Olexiy. We've been live for about 39 minutes, approaching the end of a stream. Let's see what our poll says. Will it Erdogan or Kılıçdaroğlu? Who will win? Our viewers, almost 60,000 of them who voted during the stream, 57% gets Erdogan, Dargly gets 43%. Last moment that we have from the actual polls to compare the feelings with the reality. 86 almost percent counted, 85.2 calculated, Erdogan 50.13, Dargly 44.9, so the gap is diminishing. But so far he is not clear from the second bout. Yeah, if the second round happens, that'll be interesting because many people who did not go vote to the polls for the first round, those who didn't vote might actually wake up and decide, oh, my voice does matter. You know, the usual city. Those who were supposed to vote for his opposition but didn't believe in it might actually wake up. And it seems like there might be a second round. So we'll see. That'll be an interesting development. All right. We've been 40 minutes live. I want to draw attention to this telegram. This is the data. And stop trolling me. I did not mean stuff about the flag. I meant stuff about the bag, guys in the chat. Don't troll me. So here's the data about how to donate money to Kalinovsky detachment. This is their official Telegram channel. And here it's also, there's a note about the guy whom we helped. Remember, there was one soldier who lost a leg, and we helped him a bit with our donations. So this detachment is actually buying a lot of things on their own. They have a different sources of funding, so they do appreciate support. If you guys manage to or can donate something to them, please do it. Whoever does the most will get the flag with our signatures, and the close second and third will get something from our store with mine and Alexei's probably signatures. So, anything else we can add? Oh, yes, that Ukrainian president got the order of Charlemagne, Karl the Great. He's basically a grandfather of Europe, who managed to unite Europe after the fall of Roman Empire, who set the basis for modern Europe. And he did make an effort to promote education, even though he did not know how to write himself. But thanks to him, in many regards, Europe went on the path that it did. And one can argue has outshined the achievements of the antique civilization. And there's a huge statue to him in France. Oh, yeah, no, right? And this is an order to another person. It's usually given only to a politician who made an effort to unite and join and grow Europe further. And that's why Zelensky is getting it. And there is only a couple elements left to make a decision to let Ukraine join NATO and European Union. All right, 43 minutes, 270,000 watched us, 47 watched on my side. Oh, impressive. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow. Tomorrow is Monday, we continue the stream, right? Everything just moved a little bit. Yeah, it's okay, we'll meet tomorrow. We have a ton of news to discuss. Great, and we'll discuss more as it unfolds. And we're concluding our not-so-scientific poll. 63,000 voted, 57% say Erdogan, and Daroglu gets 43% in our poll. Let's see how that clears tomorrow. Come to our stream tomorrow, and we'll discuss these and other news then. Thank you very much, and see you then.